If you're into track racing, straight line speed, drags, anything that's fast that requires fast response, the jury's still out for the RadioLink RC8X, and you may want to do some research on this thing before you pull the trigger. However, if you're into crawling, anything that uses mixing, whether it's boats, heavy equipment, tanks, anything that has a bunch of channels, anything where programming has been just a pain in your side with other radios, have I got the radio for you? I think I just might. This is the RadioLink RC8X. This is not a standard review. There's a lot that's been said about this thing in the, I think, 9 months or so that this has been around. I'm going to hopefully add to that discussion today, but we're going to have more of a chat about it. Let's get into it. Now, this is an 8-channel radio that came out from RadioLink, I think 9 months ago, so late 2022, and it did the rounds on YouTube, I don't know, around the start of this year, around the start of 2023. And this is, I've been thinking about how to start this review for a while. I've actually had the thing for, I don't know, a month. I hope RadioLink sent me a couple of things with it. I got 3 receivers. Now in the packet you usually get 2. There's the R8FG and the R4FGM. So there's a 8-channel and a 4-channel radio receiver. They both have gyros. But it's not really what you get with the radio that matters with a radio like this, because there are other multi-channel radios out there. There are numerous that have 8 or more channels in a pistol grip. It's a snazzy radio, and it's the first RadioLink radio I think I've seen that's actually got an attractive profile to it. There's no doubt it looks good, it feels good in the hand, it's got a really pretty color, touch screen. It even has the FPV feature, which I've been playing over the top of this little intro. It's a fun machine. But what matters to people is range, and as well as range, the response. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I have, goodness me, I don't know, all the radios. Insofar that I've built this channel like a business, I have a lot of radios. I've been racking my brains a bit how to start this video, because ready-to-run vehicles these days are the norm. It's no longer a kit that you build and you add your own electronics and your own whatever else, and like paint and all the rest of it. It used to be that you would have to make a choice of radio, but now that choice is kind of made for you. And with the advent of 2.4G being really common, and in fact even multi-channel radio sets being a really common inclusion, just look at some of the recent videos we've done. You get a 6-channel radio with the Rolalo stuff, you get there's a 4-channel now with the Element Enduro SE, there's still a basic but nice enough 3-channel with the Gen 9, no, that was Dumbo. There are so many radios. In any case, RTR included radios these days are actually really quite good. So why would you go and buy your own radio set? Well, there are a few reasons, but they get kind of niche. And given these things, aside from just needing to add more channels and get more receivers per the GT5 or the Dumbo RC radio, nothing wrong with that, by the way. When you start getting to the nicer stuff, you're either a racer looking for ultra low latency, which is where Sanwa and some of the Futabas come in, and the Noble's pretty quick, I think, the MB4. The RC8X looks good on paper, but I've unavoidably come across chatter online about this, and I try to be unbiased with these chats. The early versions of the RadioLink handset had some real latency. So if you're driving on a track and you want to go fast, like the MT44 from Firmware is like a gold standard. So the Futaba 4PK, 4PX, the nicer one, the Noble MB4, the RC8X here, these are all contenders for what you might consider. The number that a lot of people look at is milliseconds, which is your response time, and that's often tied to or limited by the protocol that the radio uses. Being that this is backwards compatible, the RadioLink RC8X looks space age and it's very nice, except I have a question about speed. The protocol it uses is FHSS V1 and V2, and these are pretty old. Soma's now using V5. FH being frequency hopping, spread spectrum. It's increasingly as radio frequencies get busy, radio bands get busy, you can jump across different frequencies within a certain band to the one that gives you the best signal to noise. So that's what frequency hopping is. The challenge with an aftermarket radio, especially an nice one like this, is I've watched a few things and I've read a fair bit about it, and I know that there are different firmware versions for this thing. The software that comes with the RadioLink as of August 2023 is version 1.1.5, and since version 1.1.2, or even 0.1, but 0.2 in particular, their speed has been addressed. They had some latency issues in earlier reviewers and videos and stuff. It's, I understand, better now than it was. I'm not going to delve into that any further today, except to say, if you're a track racer where the fastest, snappiest response time matters to, you might want to hold off on this radio. However, the news gets a lot better if you're like me and you're into crawling or equipment, anything that needs a lot of channels. Now this thing starts to look interesting. And one thing I really like about this radio that other radios don't handle well, apart from maybe the Noble MB4, the mixing options on the RC8X here are really, really good. In brief, here's the screen. It gives you actually quite a lot in regards to system options, and these are shortcuts that just drop you down, but it's the same as just scrolling down. You'll go through the different things. So there's telemetry, basic menu, so you can scroll to it. Let's not go through this because Exo RC did a great job on this 8 months ago from time of filming, but I do want to focus on a couple of quick things. From the top, in system menu, you've got external input output. This is where I configured the FPV up to 250 milliamp hour power output from USB-C, and your DSC connection point. That's where your TBS Crossfire will plug into. I don't know how it connects to the front, but while we're looking at the front, your micro SD card is in there as well. I've got this on RC-TNT.com. I've got a little written review that introduces you to the radio. But you tell it video input, and then when you plug the thing in, it will just appear. So that's really nice. Let me also tell you about telemetry really quickly. Engine battery voltage is the one that really matters here, because these receivers can take up to 8S, believe it or not. And right there it says telemetry. On this is version 2.1, the hardware. The thing can run on up 1 to 3S directly, but you can put up to 8S telemetry, just positive and negative, in that little fella there, and then that is reflected in engine battery voltage. So then when you're driving, you've got telemetry here. Receiver will be whatever this thing's running at. EXT will be the actual main battery, and that's what's plugged into the telemetry. And then RSSI. RSSI is your signal strength. And so null, if we were connected right now, null would tell you that we've gone out of range. And so that gives you an idea of signal strength and battery voltage. And just those two things alone are super handy. There's a timer here too while we're on the front page. Start, stop, reset. Start, stop, reset. It's really simple. I love it. Now, what I wanted to tell you about was mixing. Many radios do mixing. Even my GT5 has a four-wheel steering mix. Now there's dual ESC mixing, which is one way to handle your motor on axle, but then there's also programmable mixing. I did mention tank mixing earlier. As you steer, it'll add throttle left or right, which is great. CPS will be a modulation thing. It'll be what's the word they use? Cycle per second or something. You can set how fast the thing is between what and what, in what range of the PWM, from 0 to 1500 or back to minus 1500. And you can say when it's pressed or when it's triggered or when it's mixed with something else, how often it cycles. So CPS could be useful for a bunch of stuff, but really the one, we'll get to programmable. There's tilt mixing too. You can fly something with a pistol grip here. I don't think I'd like to try, but you could. Programmable mixing is really where it's at for me, because what this is you can set it to a curve, you can set it to, say like that's expo, you can set it to any input from anything, and usually mixing is involving either throttle or steering, right? and a modifier. That's what mixing is. You can set it to talk from anything to anything. You can make it so that once you go past a certain speed, your steering rate goes right down. So when you're slow, you've got full steering throw, and then when you're faster than about 30% input, let's say, on the throttle, your steering throw drops, and even the steering speed drops, because that's another option. And that way you can make little adjustments with a bigger wheel movement, and at high speed on a straight run, you'd be good. This is really, really important, guys. Mixing is a big deal. I'm not going to actually cover the rest of this stuff because it's all fairly standard and it's been covered ad nauseum on other channels, but I did want to let you know that mixing is really powerful. I was playing with the Rolalo AK917 and trying to do my speed runs. I had the R7FG and the R8FG receivers on my two AK917s. They both have built-in gyros, and they both worked well enough, but I had to turn the gyros off, and I tried to get them working properly and I couldn't. There was a modulation to it when it was correcting, and I found that actually fairly troublesome. So RadioLink suggests 600 meters. I did test it in a straight line when I did my speed run. I only had a line of sight of about 550 meters, but it worked without signal loss for those 550 meters from one end to the other. I did most of my filming in the middle, but I did try it from one end with this review in mind. The range appears to be there, and I would suggest that 500 meters plus, what are you doing, Mercedes? The 500 meters plus is probably fine. The expansion for the RC8X, top notch. Arguably the best I've seen. I'm still using old 5.8 gig stuff from my FPV days from, oh, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. And you can see in the footage I've used on and off during this little chat, yeah, it's not the best. I was using a dive hull omnidirectional antenna, the 4-arm cloverleaf, but it works, and it was easy to set up, so that's nice. Look, the RC8X has a lot going for it. I like the range. I like the feel in the hand. I like the reversible wheel for lefties, because there aren't a lot of options for you guys. The Noble MB4 is easier to swap sides on, but this is just a couple of turns of a screw and you've got it. I like the variety of dials and switches and buttons on this thing. I like the Linux-esque file system where it's based on file names, the whole sound profile. So you can actually record whatever you like, and if you name it the same as the existing files in the structure there, it's not locked. You can make it sound however you like for any event. It'll be a stuff around to set it up, but it will be truly uniquely yours in that case. I mean, that's pretty good, right? It's unusual to get that level of control. Most things will lock you out from that. So in my book, the RC8X is a winner as far as configuration goes. Certainly range. The interface is really nice. The gyros, the jury is out for me. I have yet to get them working as nicely as even something simple like the Dumbo RC gyros, but I haven't done my homework on that, and I haven't encountered the latency issues, possibly because I'm so late to the party and the thing's been a bit more refined, because it's a fairly seasoned device now. Latency hasn't been an issue. And again, I'm running hardware 1.1 and software 1.1.5. And if you have a device that's from February 2023 or before, you may find you'll need to update your firmware as well. As of recording, 1.1.5 is the latest, and that would be the way to go. I'm just going to try and leave some room for another car here. There we go. Alright. So, what's the bottom line? Straight line, guys, like I said in the start, you might want to do some research. I actually had no issues with range with this, nor with latency when I did my speed runs with the Rolalo, but I'm still not too sure about the gyro. More research is required. Certainly if you have an older version of this, update to 1.1.5 or later. You can get that all from RadioLink's website. It's all in the description below. But if you are after anything that requires some configuration Mixing in particular, oh boy. Yeah, I'm liking this machine. There's a link in the description for what we've talked about today, not just the radio, but also there's an FPV bundle as well. They've only got 10 left, but there is a discount available, and I've got the code below as well. RadioLink gave me a code to give you till early September. Even if you're watching after that, the price has been dropping a little, I've noticed. So check out the links below whenever you're watching this. If you're into configuring your models, this might just be the radio for you. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I hope you got something out of it. Throw me a like, and I'll catch you next time on RC-TNT. Cheers.